We're the safest big city in America. We're witnessing drops in robberies and grand larcenies. People are stealing items, grand larceny, auto. We're seeing drops in our homicides, our shootings. We have the lowest number of homicides and shootings in the recorded history of the city in the last 6 months. That just says a lot.
How did you do that? I mean, did you focus on that in particular?
That's a great question because we were able to do it in spite of the city council laws that have, we believe they have harmed our ability to allow police officers to do their job, in spite of the bail reform, in spite of something called Raise the Age, where we have stopped treating 16-year-olds that commit violent crimes as adults. So with all of these legislative changes, we have been able to still bring down crime because we focused on those areas. We created hotspots in the city where we knew there was traditional violent behavior, and we put in place a gun enforcement unit that assisted us in removing 22,000 illegal guns off our streets. And we zeroed in on some of the behaviors that are associated with violence by closing illegal cannabis stores so that they won't be an attraction to violent people, going after people who rode illegal scooters. They were using it to snatch and grab jewelry and phones and watches and to do robberies. And so we had a holistic approach that we knew if we take guns off the streets, we would see a decrease in shooting because you can't commit a shooting if you don't have a gun. And that is why we focused on it. And the plan clearly shows that it is working.
And I think you've got a plan that you're rolling out right about now on quality of life.
Yes, we call it the Q teams. And it is going after the quality of life issues. We were successful in bringing down crime statistically, but people weren't feeling safe. They weren't feeling safe because we saw abandoned vehicles, people just totally not following the basic rules, illegal dumping, all of these things. And
urinating in the street.
Right.
Yeah. The smell of pot everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And now that is outside our span of control.
Right.
Because the state laws created the pot laws. I think it should be relegated to certain areas that you could smoke marijuana, not throughout the entire street, because you do smell it everywhere. And I think that's one of the negative impacts of our cannabis law that the state government passed. But what we would like to do is just continue to ensure that we enforce those quality of life issues and so people can feel safer. And that's dealing with street homelessness. During my time in office, we removed thousands of street encampments from people living in tents, cardboard boxes. Our goal was to say we must visually be a clean and safe city, and people must feel safe, and people must also be safe. And that is the goal, and we're moving towards that.
And I mean, part of the issue with the city has been all the illegal migrants in hotels, expensive hotels.
Yes.
The city's spent $6 billion plus, almost $7 billion on dealing with this as a sanctuary city. When are we going to see the Roosevelt Hotel, I think, has been emptied out, but when are we going to see the other hotels in Midtown and so on being emptied of the illegal migrants?
Clearly a successful initiative by the men and women who had to deal with this migrant and asylum seeker crisis. And what makes it more impressive, this was the same body of workers that had to navigate us through COVID. Many of them spent long hours dealing with this issue. They are our human service workers. And when the migrant and asylum seeker crisis came to the city, we received over 237,000 migrants and asylum seekers in the city. At one time, at its peak, we were getting 4,000 a week, 8,000 every 2 weeks, and you could do the math to see how challenging this was. And we had to build an entire shelter system within months. It took us over 40 years to build the normal city shelter system. But within months, we had to build an entire shelter system, educate 50,000 children, make sure we had to feed, clothe, and house. And many New Yorkers did not realize that we did not have the authority to stop the buses from coming in. We didn't have the authority to tell individuals that you have to work. They could not work. We didn't have the authority to say no to feed, clothing, and housing them at the same time. And so this was an unbelievable achievement that the team, we were able to accomplish. And I really am pleased by the leaders of this administration who did it. We're now down to less than 100 migrant asylum seekers coming into our city a week. And that's due to the securing of the border. The Trump administration secured the border. And because of that, you're not seeing the thousands of people coming in. And it has been a real relief for our city. As you stated, it cost us $7.7 billion. Those $7.7 billion could have gone to other services in our city. So there's a long-term impact of losing those billions of dollars that we lost.
And that got you into friction with the Biden administration when you pushed back against that and said we need help. And you were indicted, arrested, or when you were en route to Washington, you had to turn around, didn't you?
Yes. What happened? This investigation that they put in place. I was en route to Washington to talk about the migrants and asylum seekers when the FBI went into the home of my fundraiser, and it started to unravel a long investigation. And I truly believe it was associated with my criticism of what was happening in the city. And I just wanted to defend my city and say that this was hurting us. I was indicted for calling the fire department commissioner and asking him to do a building inspection, which is the job of an elected official, not to tell him to pass it, but just to go inspect the building. And I said, if you can't do it, let me know. I'll manage the expectation of the embassy who was calling about it. They connected that request with my request when I traveled and paid for my travel and asked for more legroom by an upgrade. They said that because of those actions, it was bribery. And I was facing 33 years in prison because of that. But that is how mean spirit, and that is the level of lawfare that we were experiencing. And that's why President Biden stated that his Justice Department became too politicized when he pardoned his son. President Trump said it was politicized, and I too believe it was politicized. And those countless number of parents who were placed on FBI watch lists just for defending their children, they felt it was politicized. We were moving in the wrong direction with our Justice Department. And I believe we should never allow Americans to go through what I went through and what others have gone through.
Yes, because that's allowed your opponents to call you corrupt. But as you said, this is about upgrades on Turkish Airlines over a period of 10 years and the fire inspection, which I guess would be really part of your normal behavior with other clients as well. But I mean, do you think Joe Biden himself stepped in? You were obviously a thorn in their side. You were the only big city mayor. All the cities, Chicago, LA, etc., were getting these influxes of migrants that were burdening their city, that their people were getting angry about. But you were the only one who stood up and said something.
So it's so true. And I think many other mayors, such as Chicago, Houston, Los Angeles, Denver, they too were receiving the full crush of the migrant asylum seeker crisis. And not as large as New York. New York was the epicenter of this entire crisis. And after 10 trips to Washington, after several meetings with the president, I could not sit back and continue to watch this city go through this. It was a major impact on the quality of life of New Yorkers, but also the cost factor. When you look at the city's budget, although we have a $115 billion budget, only about $30 billion you can actually move around. The other 70% of the budget goes to running the city. It is already paid for: teachers, firefighters, paving our streets. So the money we could move around, out of that 30-something billion, $7 billion of that went to the crisis. That just was not sustainable. And I tried my best to explain to DC over and over again, and they just didn't hear. So do I believe the order came directly from President Biden? I don't have any proof to that, but do I believe some of the underlings and some of those individuals who thought they were doing the president bidding, do I believe they did such and put the order out? Yes, I do. And then the U.S. attorney who was in charge of the prosecution, after he left office, once President Trump was elected, he opened a website that looked like a campaign website where he highlighted Taking Me Down and others, because he also went after the highest ranking African-American in the state, and a lieutenant governor named Brian Benjamin. He charged him with frivolous charges that were later dropped and dismissed as well. So people have not really connected the dots on what was happening in the Southern District of New York.
Yeah, that lawfare is really frightening. And who was it you were talking to in Washington from the Biden administration when you were begging them to help New York?
A series of staffers, everyone from his chief of staff.
Ron Klain or
Yes.
Jeff Zients?
Yes. His name escaped me. I don't want to say exactly what it is because I'm not sure of the name. I'm having a senior moment.
Yeah.
But to his intergovernmental affairs people, there was a series of people after my personal communication with the governor here in Manhattan. We sat down and spoke with him. The governor and I sat down and spoke with the president. Governor Hochul and I sat down and spoke with the president and shared with him that his people are not giving him real information, that the flow had to stop. And it just never did. It just got worse and worse as time went on until we saw the securing of the border.
And what did President Biden say to you when you were giving him these home truths?
He was attentive, took notes. I'm pretty sure he went back and communicated with his team, and his team probably told him that everything was under control. When in fact, everything was not under control. Everything was out of control. And I also traveled to South America. I went down to the Darien Gap where hundreds of thousands of people were crossing, visiting Ecuador, Colombia, and Mexico, and tried to communicate with their officials that they should notify their public that the streets of New York, those streets are not paved with gold. You don't come here and automatically get a 3-bedroom house. And there was so much misinformation that was going to those local municipalities in these different cities that told them that everything is great once you got here in New York. And I wanted to give them the honest truth that you were sleeping in dormitory settings, you were sleeping on cots. This was not a luxury environment. And so we were able to close over 60 of those shelters. Roosevelt Hotel, which became a symbol of the problem, we were able to close those shelters as well.
It was a cartel center, wasn't it?
We had gang members that were in there, but it was not just only gang members. It was a shelter with children and families, but it was the intake center. So everyone had to go through there to get processed and then sent out to other locations in the process.
And finally, your relationship with Donald Trump, people remarked upon it. I mean, he gave you a pardon, but I think he saw you as a fellow victim of lawfare. What is that relationship like?
Yes, and he didn't issue a pardon. What he did was... That's okay.
Yep.
The Justice Department looked into the case to determine if there was any need to be prosecuting me for those offenses of getting more leg room and doing my job as a borough president of inquiring about a building. And they made the determination based on their evaluation that it should move forward. They presented that to the judge. The judge had an independent analysis on what should be done, and that independent analysis came back and said the case should be dropped with any way of it coming back at all, and that's what was done. And so what many people don't understand, I did not know President Trump. The first time I met him was while he was running for office. Prior to that, the president was saying that what they're doing to Mayor Adams is wrong. He was saying this on the campaign trail. There were no conversations that were taking place between the two of us. He felt it was wrong. And when he was elected, his Justice Department did an examination. Then people are trying to say, well, he did it because there was some deal. There was never a deal. There was never any conversation that he would do A and I would do B. That did not take place at all. And when you did an analysis of what I was saying pre-election, before I knew who was going to be the president, I was saying things about people who commit illegal crimes should not remain in our country. I said the same thing after the election. So there's no inconsistency in my comments. I have been the same person throughout my entire personal life professional life, when it comes down to protecting children and families of the city.
And when did you meet President Trump for the first time?
I think it was at the Alfred E. Smith dinner. We were there, and he came in to be the speaker, and we exchanged pleasantries, and he indicated that what they did to you and what they're doing to you is wrong. And this was what I believe he felt, what his family went through, that he felt a connection to what I was going through.
Yeah. And then ICE, are you allowing them to come in and take out those illegal alien criminals?
Well, what I have been sharing with people over and over again is that we have to stop classifying ICE as an illegal operation. They're not. They are a federal governmental law enforcement entity. And we will coordinate with them when we go after illegal, dangerous people. And we have done that. When you look at the fact that we have taken down dangerous gangs, one of the gangs we took down was 27 Venezuelan gang members, very dangerous, Trinde Alagua, extremely dangerous. Not only were they dangerous to documented New Yorkers, they were dangerous to undocumented residents of the city. They were forcing women into prostitution. They were shooting people. They were selling drugs. They were dangerous people. And so I am going to coordinate with ICE, a federal law enforcement agency, and the other federal law enforcement agencies to keep our city safe. The law does not allow me to coordinate when it comes down to deportation, only civil matters. The federal government is in charge, and that enforcement, that's their job to do. But when it comes down to keeping our city safe, I'm going to be coordinating with them and continue to coordinate to go after dangerous people.
One last question. Oh, actually two. One is, do you have any interesting talents or habits Donald Trump, we found out, used to play the flute. Is there anything like that people wouldn't know about you?
No, I'm just an ordinary guy. I have two left feet, so I'm not a good dancer. And I'm starting to learn using online YouTube lessons. I want to sign up and learn how to play the guitar.
Really?
Yeah, always wanted
fantastic. to. So what do you want to play? What's the tune that you want to
My Way. That's one of my favorite songs.
Fantastic. Can you sing?
No, I cannot. If I sing, you'll run out of the room.
And so very last question.
Yeah.
The secrets of success. I always ask people, you've met very many successful people. You're successful yourself. What do you think are the secrets for becoming successful?
But, really to embrace that you don't have to be perfect. In fact, I'm perfectly imperfect. And the question is not perfection, it's dedication. And no matter who you are, my mom told me if you live long enough, you're going to find yourself in dark places. And those dark places are not burials, they're plantings. And you should just keep pushing forward. And resiliency, I watched her to show us how to be resilient. And little did I know those lessons was just shaping my character, because the last 15 months tested my resiliency. But I came through because of my faith, and I knew that I made a commitment to serve the people of the city, and every day I did that. And so I just would tell people when they do an analysis of everything, it's not brilliance, it's not academics, it is just grit.